Okay, so I know the NFL season is still a few months away at this point, but I thought now would be a pretty good time to look at a ton of very interesting NFL teams and see some questions that need to be answered. Whether these teams will improve, continue to get worse, or stay the exact same they have for years at this point, let's do it. Let's look at a few NFL teams that I thought were the most interesting to look at and see what the 2024 NFL season might have in store for them. What better team to start with than the Kansas City Chiefs? And they still have a ton of questions despite having Patrick Mahomes on the roster. Obviously, no matter what, they are going to be contending for another Super Bowl. Like it or not, this team still does have pieces, but the wide receiver room is where the biggest questions for me start. Obviously, it can't really get any worse than it was last year, but we still don't really know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice's legal situation, and with Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy coming to town, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to develop a lot of new chemistry with some guys that he's never thrown at before. Like I said, it's not really going to be a matter of are the Chiefs going to be Super Bowl contenders or not, because they obviously are, I think they're definitely going to finish with a winning record, but Kelsey is getting up there in age too, and I think at the end of the regular season last year, he really was declining. He's out of his prime for sure at this point, and although he's able to turn it on in the playoffs magically because nobody can still guard him, he is just not the same player anymore. And then you get into the questions of Chris Jones's contract because he's also pretty old too, and I don't know if he's going to be able to be worth all that money in a few years. But the defense is still going to be great. L'Jarius Sneed leaving is going to be a massive hit for them, but they have so many young pieces and they just continue to hit on their draft classes year after year, so the Chiefs are going to be fine. The San Francisco 49ers, a team that somehow lost the Super Bowl, and they are still in the best situation in the NFL for this year. Yes, the Brandon Ayuk thing looks like it's going to end pretty soon, but it might not end in a positive note for the Niners. And they did pay Christian McCaffrey, but the time is coming. This year, like I said, is going to be another great year. They're going to be the best team in the league. They're going to be the most talented team in the league again. But next season, things are going to boil over for sure. Trent Williams is about to be like 40 years old at this point, and he can't just keep being the best player in the league for longer, I don't think. And then Brock Purdy's time for a generational contract is going to come. Dude can't keep living out of apartments for long, and he is going to get Trevor Lawrence money, I am sure of it. And the question is going to be, do the 49ers pay him that and then deal with the repercussions to other positions, having to lose a ton of skill position guys, and just trusting that Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey being enough to carry the offense? And I'm not really sure what the answer to that question is, but one thing's for certain, this team is still amazing, and they just have to execute. That's all they have to do. Just make one more play and you win the Super Bowl! I'll never get over how they lost that Super Bowl. I still don't know how they did it. Speaking of a team that really just makes you want to grab your organs out and throw them down the toilet, the Dallas Cowboys. Well, they made a very stark decision by deciding to keep Mike McCarthy on the coaching staff. I don't think that was the move, but they kind of had to do that because the Dak Prescott era is going to keep going as long as the McCarthy era keeps going, so you might as well bring both of them along for the ride. And all of the signs that we've seen from the Cowboys internally have pointed to Dak Prescott getting another contract. But the question is, should they pay Dak Prescott? Now, let's not get things twisted. Dak Prescott is still a very, very good quarterback. Don't forget that the man almost won the MVP last season. I don't know why the Cowboys keep losing in the playoffs. There is no rational explanation for how this keeps happening, but it does keep happening. So you would think that this would have been the offseason for the Cowboys to go all in, but because of cap and Jerry Jones reasons, pretty much the only thing they got back was Eric Kendricks, who isn't going to do anything for them. So the Cowboys are going to remain the exact same. It's going to be another great regular season and a first-round exit, and maybe the Cowboys are just some social experiment to see how much pain the human mind can possibly take. The Buffalo Bills. Now, there are a lot of things that need to be addressed with this team, but Josh Allen is not one of them. We know he is amazing. Josh Allen is a top 3 quarterback in football, no questions asked. His turnover issues were solved a little bit during the season, but the emergence of James Cook was huge for the offense, and hopefully with the wide receiver room changing, things won't get that much worse for Josh Allen. Obviously, there's going to be questions about Diggs leaving, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal without him there. By year's end, he really just wasn't producing well at all. And in the playoffs, Khalil Shakir just straight up outplayed him. So with Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, like I said, Armstead and Keon Coleman, they should be fine there. And Dalton Kincaid is also damn near a receiver too, so they should be fine on offense. But on defense, I don't know, man. It's going to be sketchy. For the first time since 2017, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, their safety duo, will not be there. And also add on injuries to Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White, who's now gone. Matt Milano's still there, but he may never be healthy again. So I don't know. This team is so scary. In one world, I can see them just winning the Super Bowl in dominant fashion, and in another, one Josh Allen injury, and this team may not even win 5 games. The Detroit Lions had probably the most impressive season out of any team that isn't the Texans last season. Pound for pound, nobody thought that this team was going to make the NFC Championship and coming one historic collapse away from winning the Super Bowl. But as of right now, I would strangle a small animal to be in your position, Lions fans. It is everything that Ben Johnson came back. Everything. The entire offense is going to be the most predictable unit in football, being that we know exactly what they're going to be like this next season, but they're going to be great, so it's not really a problem. Sam Laporta is primed to take over the title as the league's best tight end, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra are 2 of the most dangerous weapons in football. The O-line is still elite, but the defense, just like the Bills, could get a little bit sketchy. The corner was a massive problem for the Lions last year, and although they did fill the hole by drafting my favorite corner in the draft, Terrion Arnold, they still have an issue at the other corner spot, which is now being filled by Carlton Davis, or, oh no, Amik Robertson. And those are 2 guys you do not want to see starting at corner for you, but I don't know, maybe you can squeak by with just 1 weakness on the team. So everyone is expecting an easy division crown for the Lions, and maybe, just maybe, the Super Bowl might be a realistic goal for them next season. Oh, Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. Where do we even start? I mean, what a biblical disaster last year was. I've never seen a collapse like that in my life. I've never seen it, and I still don't know how to feel from here on out with this team. On one hand, the offense is so talented. Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, they have so many weapons, and obviously they just brought in Saquon Barkley too, and I love a majority of the offensive changes they made too, with Kellen Moore being a massive piece to help Saquon hopefully become the most explosive running back in football, but that is if he stays healthy. And on defense, things are just a massive problem again. You want me to trust Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith to just take a massive step forward in their developments? Because honestly, I don't. And maybe Vic Fangio can help this team a little bit more than Matt Patricia can, but their 2 big signings were CJ Gardner-Johnson, who I know played well for Philly last time he was there, and Devin White, who seemed absolutely cooked last year. And this team could score about 35 points per game, but it doesn't matter if they're giving up 42 in the process. So they can't really get worse than last season, though. That is one positive. It cannot get worse than last year. Hopefully. Now, I am getting a lot of hate, and probably rightfully so, for saying the Houston Texans are overrated. But that doesn't mean I don't think they'll be very good, because they obviously will. The offense has no excuse to not be maybe the best in football. CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, who, kind of sucks, but he is a running back and a starting running back at that. They also have the best wide receiver room in football too, so there's that. Laramie Tunsil anchoring the offensive line is going to be amazing too, and with all of those pieces, this group is just deadly, but I don't know. I really hate that they couldn't re-sign Jonathan Grenard. He had an amazing season, and although Danielle Hunter is going to help that, I just don't think he's going to bring the same amount of impact as Grenard did last year. But I will give them credit where credit's due. If Stephon Diggs can somehow turn back the clock and be amazing again, then that might be the best move of the entire offseason. And I also love the Danico Autry signing, and paired with Danielle Hunter, they can really wreck things. But they are putting a lot of stock into Derek Stingley trying to become one of the best cornerbacks in the league, because he's kind of holding down that secondary by himself. And as of right now, I'm still just not buying into the Super Bowl expectations, okay? If they get to even the AFC Championship, that is a massive win for the season. And I don't know, I see their best case scenario being like a 2019 Ravens type season where CJ Stroud wins the MVP. And worst case scenario, the absolute doomsday scenario for this Texans team should be a wild card appearance. The New York Jets. Oh boy. Let me just say this first. Aaron Rodgers will not solve all your problems. Screw all the OTAs drama and all that stuff. You can't just plug in a 40-year-old quarterback into an already abysmal offense and pray that he does everything himself, because it's not going to happen. But if we're going to think a little bit positive here, okay, the defense for the New York Jets showed it can be the best defense in the league when healthy, and if you inserted like a 2021 version of Aaron Rodgers into this team, then yeah, you have the best team in football. However, Aaron Rodgers is 40 and he's not the same guy anymore. And your biggest issue is the offensive line, which they've tried to improve time and time again, but we'll see if next season it gets any better. But the main reason that I still don't believe in this team is the coaching. Not only do I think Robert Saleh is just not it at all, but Nathaniel Hackett still truly hasn't the first clue as to how to read the English language, because the dude is just a quarterback killer. And I don't care if he's had success with Aaron in the past, he couldn't even drop a slant route for Zach Wilson, and I just don't think this team is going to be that good. But God, at this point, a playoff appearance would be a historic event in Jets fans' lives, and I just gotta say, could you imagine how funny it would be if Aaron Rodgers got injured again? So, the Pittsburgh Steelers might be the most interesting team in the entire NFL to me. I think the AFC North is going to be an absolute bloodbath, and the Steelers are going to be involved in that war, but they might be a little bit on the outside looking in just because of how good the Ravens and Bengals could be, but hear me out here, okay? Hear me out. I think the Steelers could have an amazing season next year. Their defense that has the potential to be a top 3 unit in the NFL, with guys like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Patrick Queen making up the best linebacker room in football, and a healthy Minkah Fitzpatrick could just dominate games. And Russell Wilson's game managing and the 1-2 punch of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren could be enough to get the team to a strong showing in the divisional round. The problem with the Steelers offense right now with Russell Wilson is their ceiling is just really, really low. But what if, say around week 14, Russell Wilson goes down with an injury and in comes Justin Fields to replace him? Because like I said, with Russ, they can only be so good, but Justin Fields raises the roof infinitely higher than the chef does. So if this team has any intentions of going farther than a second round playoff loss, a Russell Wilson injury or getting benched may be their best chance at becoming truly great, because on paper, this roster really, really is underrated. All right, I know, but let me just talk about the Raiders for a second here, okay? I need to get this stuff off my chest. Antonio Pierce is our coach now, and hopefully that'll go well like it did for the end of last season, but I am so skeptical, because we have talent on offense at pretty much every position besides quarterback. Brock Bowers could have an amazing rookie season. Devontae Adams is still a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, but I mean, we don't even know who our quarterback is going to be. One week it's Gardner Minshew because he's tearing it up at OTAs, and then the next it's still AOC because he already has chemistry with the team. But what makes this whole situation so sad is that we might have an amazing defense, and it won't matter, because this team has already demonstrated that the defense can carry games when needed, like versus the Chiefs. But with Christian Wilkins here now, Max Crosby won't have to do everything himself. And if Jack Jones can keep up what he was doing last year and a healthy Nate Hobbs can play amazing, then we have potential to be a team that can actually upset a few contenders or two. So, in other words, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you did like this video, watch this video I just did on the fall of the Carolina Panthers under Cam Newton. It's pretty good, trust me. And thanks to all my patrons for pledging $1. It truly does mean a lot. But anyways,